guys, welcome back to our channel. We're Megan Morgs, and in today's video we have put together some of our top tips that we want to share with you for your upcoming trip to India.
Before travelling to India, we probably had some misconceptions about what it would actually be like, mainly from things that we'd seen on TV, maybe the news, Instagram, stories that other people had shared with us, and really, it sort of set us up in potentially like a bad note for what to expect. However, generally speaking, when we're in the country, we had a really lovely time. We only managed to spend almost 3 weeks there, just sort of around the Rajasthan area. So this isn't advice about sort of what the whole of India would be like, just some general tips and tricks about what to expect when you get there, and just how to sort of enjoy the country the most that you can, really.
And it's just some tips that we sort of wish that we had before visiting the country.
Exactly.
So we thought that we'd share them with you today. So first and foremost, before you book your flights, what I would recommend doing is having a look on your government website to find out some more information about the visa. So for us, it was just an online e-visa. It was really sort of quick and simple to fill out. It cost us £20, and that was valid for 30 days with multiple entries. Now, you do need to print it out and have a physical printed copy at the airport.
One thing that affected us, that might not affect you depending on whether you travel with a drone or not, is that actually flying a drone in India as a foreigner is illegal. You can't really get around this, apart from sort of if you apply for a lot of government permits and jump through hoops. I think you have to re-register your drone in the name of an Indian person, etc. And it's probably more hassle than it's really worth. If you're sort of travelling through India, it's not a problem. We didn't have any issues with it. Just pack it in your bag. Obviously, make sure to have the batteries in a different place, and you'll get through immigration just fine.
One thing to know, we travel with the DJI Mini, so it is the sort of smallest drone. So we can't necessarily speak for larger sizes. But for us, we didn't have any issues. We also didn't fly the drone once. Obviously, we respected the rules, and for us, it just wasn't worth it.
So those were the only things that we really needed to prepare for before we visited India. Once we got there, it was very easy to get money out of the ATM, and the conversion rate for us Brits is quite easy. So 100 rupees was £1. So when we were sort of buying things, it was very simple. In terms of SIM cards, you can get that sorted at the airport, and we would probably recommend doing so. It's a tiny little bit more expensive to do it this way, and the SIM card doesn't activate for around sort of like 3 hours or so. However, when we got into the sort of the main town, it was a bit of a faff to do it. And also the taxi driver that we went with, he suggested that we go to his friend's shop to get our SIM card sorted, and he quoted us, I think it was 1,300 rupees each for like a SIM card, and that would give us like 2.5 gigabytes of data per day for 28 days. We thought, this is seeming a bit expensive, and so we walked away and we went to the actual Airtel store the day after. It turned out that it should have actually been 300 rupees for a 2.5 gigabyte per day SIM card. So the guy was sort of trying to overcharge us by £10 or 1,000 rupees. So just sort of keep an eye out for these sorts of, I would guess you could call it a scam, where people will take you to their shop and try and charge you a bit more because they know that you're a tourist and you don't know the going rate.
Also, just to note, if you do go to the Airtel store, you'll need a copy of your visa, a copy of your passport, and also a local citizen's mobile number that they will sign that SIM up against. So we just used the contact number for the host at where we were staying. As you arrive into the country and your SIM card potentially won't activate for 3 hours, what we would recommend that you do is download an offline map on Google Maps of the area that you're staying, so you know exactly how to get from the airport to that area. Now, this is particularly useful if you are getting a private taxi, so you know that they're taking you in the right direction, and also just general safety as well.
On the topic of taxis taking tourists that have just arrived in the country to their accommodation, there are a lot of scams which a lot of people that we spoke to have been sort of targeted by. Thankfully, we didn't actually get involved in any of these scams, but I'll just rattle off a few of them just with the taxis, just so that you've got an idea of what you might have to expect. So the first one is that they will call up a friend pretending to be the accommodation that you've booked, and they will say to you on the phone that the accommodation is full or that there's been an issue and you can't come, and then they will offer an alternative accommodation for you with one of their friends for probably an inflated price, which the tourists will sort of be pressured to accept because they don't have anywhere else to go and they're in a foreign country. However, if this situation arises, just either tell them to stop the car, let you get out, and you rebook a taxi or find another taxi. It's very easy to do. Alternatively, just say, please stop, just take us to the accommodation and we'll deal with it with them when you're there. This will sort of mitigate any further issues. The second one, which was quite a surprising one and one that we didn't expect, our friends Matt and Laurie that we met up with, they said that this happened to them. The taxi driver took them to a number of, I presume, fake sort of like government official offices, asking them to pay sort of these small tourist tax fees and like sign on these particular documents and things like that, and saying that they needed to go to these places to register when they arrived in Delhi. Eventually they sort of got sick of it and told the guy, just take us to our accommodation, like don't worry about it. And then eventually it was all fine. But just if they're telling you to sort of go places with them, or you need to go to this official place, don't listen to that. You just need to go straight to your accommodation. If you've gone through immigration, your visa's good, etc., then just go straight to your accommodation, everything will be fine.
Another thing as well to look out for is the taxi driver warning you that you're not in a safe location where you're staying. Just do that research online before, make sure that you've got all the up-to-date information about where you should be staying.
And then finally, there's been a few people that we spoke to that were taken by taxi drivers to friends or family shops, just constantly stopping on the way. Oh, we're just going to stop here, you can go in here and have a look. Oh, we're going to stop here, go in here and have a look. If this happens, they said that to us that they either got out of the taxi or rickshaw that they were taking and found a new one, or alternatively just sternly told the driver, please take us to our accommodation or we're going to step out now. And obviously the taxi driver will more than likely do what you say in fear of losing the fare that you're going to be paying.
With India being such a huge and diverse country, there's lots of different options available for you when it comes to transportation. Now, what we mainly use were trains, buses and rickshaws. What the locals use, therefore the prices are a lot cheaper than sort of private taxis or private vans / shuttles. Now, as far as trains go, often you can just get your homestays or different booking agencies to sort these for you. We book them all ourselves, and honestly I liked being able to do that, and also it saved us some money because obviously we weren't having to pay anyone commission. Also meant that we could trust those bookings as we did them ourselves. So we will put a link to the government website below. You will have to register, and I'll also put a step-by-step guide below in the description as to how to register.
We used this website the whole time we were in India and had no issues with it. Once you're signed up, that's the hard part done, and it's easy from there.
There's a huge variety of classes to suit everybody and everyone's budget, whether that be high, sort of your own air-conditioned room, or in general class. So we'll also put a link below as to what each one of those means for you, so you get a better idea. We sort of travelled in CC chair class, so the aircon chair class, or a 3-tier, 2-tier sleeper bed when we had one.
Yeah, just depending on the length of your journey. Like generally speaking, for the longer journeys you might want a bit more comfort.
The trains are brilliant, we can't recommend them enough. One thing I would look out for when booking it, if it says WL, that means that you won't get a seat straight away and you'll be put on a wait list for any cancellations. So just keep an eye out, make sure that your bookings do go through, and then you're good to go really. You don't need to print anything out for the train, they'll just come around, the conductors, they'll ask your name, and they've got a list of where you should be sat basically. It's really nice and easy. One thing to note, take toilet paper and hand sanitizer. Don't worry about food. We saw people getting Dominoes delivered onto the trains.
Yeah, bizarre.
So many sort of train vendors offering chai, loads of snacks, peanuts and everything like that.
Finally, for transportation, rickshaws. Now you'll have to either use the Uber app, which will probably cost about 20% more than, or maybe even more than what the going rate should be. But it's also handy to use Uber because you'll be able to see sort of like how much it might cost for you to get from one place to the other, so that if you decide to barter with a local for a price yourself, you've got sort of like an upper limit that you'd want to pay already set. Now we prefer to go with the local guys just because, you know, we'd rather the money go straight into the hands of the local rather than through Uber, who probably take a large cut out of it. But with Uber, you know, if you're going from say like an airport or the train station or a bus station to an accommodation, like a specific location that the driver might not know, and you might have to explain to them, it might just be better for you to book an Uber just for the sake of your sanity, with not having to give the driver directions and going the wrong way. And then, you know, it's just a lot easier to do so. With your sort of price that you've worked out from Uber, you can then call a driver off the street and start bartering for a price. Often they sort of go for a price per person. For instance, when we were in Jaipur, we wanted to go to the fort, and the driver basically, when we arrived at our location, instead of the 200 that we agreed for us to pay before, he was like, oh no, 200 each. So he wanted 400. That was an argument that we sort of wouldn't have had to get into if we just made it very clear that we should have said sort of like 100, rather than just agree on a price for 200, just for sort of like future reference, because then, you know, there's no confusion.
On that note as well, it's always good to have sort of exact change as well as to what the cost is. That way you're not sort of waiting on the other person to
give the change.
And always set your price before you leave.
You've got to, because otherwise you'll get charged an astronomical fee. On the subject of bartering, vendors will often give you a first price that's maybe almost 10 times what you should really be paying. For example, we were in one of the markets in Delhi. I wanted to buy a cap, and the guy quoted me like 1,050 rupees straight off the bat for this cap. Right, here we go. I like this one. Now we have to talk about the price.
1,050 rupees.
1,050?
Yes.
This is cheaper in the UK.
This is cotton inside net. This fiber. See this? This fiber.
Yes, this cardboard. We knew that obviously this wasn't going to be the price that we wanted to pay anyway, and we went back and forwards, and eventually this young local guy walked past. I asked him, oh, how much would you pay for this cap? My friend, what do you think is a good price? What do you think is a good price for this cap? 150 rupees?
Yeah, that's what I... Yeah.
150 की क्वालिटी आती है आजकल. ये है इसकी क्वालिटी क्या आती है भाई?
Yeah, that's what I was saying.
ना वो भाई 150 का कुछ आता है आज की डेट में. नहीं 150 का कुछ आता है.
He said 150 rupees. So just gives you an idea about where they're sort of trying to market these products to you that that aren't worth it, basically. But you have to be persistent. Know the price that you want to pay for something before you get into the negotiation, and you lowball them at the start. They say 1,050. Just start off, if you know it's worth 100, 200, whatever. Start off at 100. They might go no way. And then, if you can't get to a sort of a price that you want to pay, start walking away, because that's the sort of like the final stage that we would recommend in the negotiation process.
I think the only way to get the price that you want to pay is to be prepared to actually walk away. Often you can walk away and be quite far away before they start shouting you back.
Yeah, they have a think about it and think, I suppose it's still all right, and then they'll come and get you. One of the best things about India, and one of our favourite things about India, was the food.
We only really ate vegetarian when we were in India. That's just a personal choice from us. And we only ate at well-reviewed Google Maps places. Now, if we were going to eat street food, for us, we would make the decision to go on a street food tour, just because we know, obviously, everything that we're eating is safe and most likely not going to get us sick. That's just a decision that we made in India, considering we only had a short period of time there, and we didn't want any of that to be ruined due to food poisoning.
If you were to go and eat at a street food stall, just go to the ones where there's the majority of locals eating. If there's 10, 15, 20 local people sat down in a restaurant, that there's going to be good food in there. And that's probably the best Indian food at those local places. You know, the food's going to be cheaper than in restaurants as well.
With street food as well, I would always recommend choosing somewhere where they're cooking it up fresh in front of you, not where there's sort of like a stand where you don't know how long that food's been sat there, just to ensure, you know, you are limiting that chance again of getting poorly from it.
As for the drinks, be careful of anything that you have with water in it. A lot of the street vendors sell some quite nice looking drinks, but they're used with either ice or tap water that they've sort of mixed with other ingredients to create the dish for you.
Particularly sort of shakes or fruit juices or any fruit really, they sort of water it down with tap water often. So if you are going to have fruit, we'd recommend going for any with like a natural shell, like bananas, pineapple, things like that.
On the subject of water, we also heard about a couple of friends that got pretty sick from drinking the water that were bottled on the trains. Basically, the train vendor had filled up the water bottles using the taps on the train, and then sort of resealed it with a lighter and a fresh lid. So it basically looked like you were opening a fresh bottle. However, obviously that had been filled up with water out the tap. They got really ill and were out for sort of like a number of days. So yeah, a water filter bottle is probably the only way that you're going to be 100% safe.
We definitely recommend like don't have ice in any of your drinks as well, just because you can't guarantee what water was used to create it.
But I mean, following all these tips, we had a great time in India with the food, never got ill, never had any stomach problems at all. You know, you can ask people how spicy things are if you're not a fan of spice, and everybody's so lovely, and the food is some of the best food that we'd ever had.
Oh, 100%. Like, I don't think a curry at home will even
touch the surface anymore. Exactly. We love the food, and we didn't get sick because we followed sort of pretty basic principles, just making sure that we were being as safe as we could be.
And again, for us, that's just a personal decision. We obviously erred on the side of caution, but you know, it's up to you. Be as safe as you want to be, or take a bit of a risk.
Yeah, we just didn't want to spend sort of 2 or 3 days on the toilet, basically, which is a real risk if you sort of roll the dice. The next topic we wanted to touch on is safety. Now, this was a particular area, as well as the food, that we'd sort of had some preconceived sort of expectations about, just because of things that we'd heard from other people, things that we'd seen on the news, etc. And we wanted to share with you our actual experience, so you can sort of have a first-hand view of what's important to be safe in India, and also, you know, what it's actually like, just so that you're not sort of like scared by these platforms online that are giving you sort of misinformation potentially.
And we just want to know, we at no point felt unsafe in our time in India. You know, we stuck to sort of general safety principles that we would utilise everywhere.
When you're travelling around in a rickshaw, if you have belongings, like a rucksack or something like that, keep that towards the centre of the rickshaw, not so it's hanging out of the window, or sort of because they've got open doors sometimes. This is so that someone just can't drive by and pinch it. Also, if you've sort of got like a GoPro and you're filming, or a phone, again, don't hang out of the side of the window with it, or if you're going to do so, sort of have a look around before, just because we've seen sort of like firsthand and heard from people where people have sort of been taking a picture out of the window, or like taking a selfie video of the chaos traffic that's going on, and someone's just sort of pinched it straight out of their hand on a bike and just driven straight off, obviously never going to see your phone again. We never had any issues, but we always sort of like took the precautions necessary, so just something to keep in mind.
So travelling as a woman, I definitely felt more safe travelling with Morgan, just in general. We did have sort of quite a bit of attention from males, and then often we just said that we were married, just to sort of cut off the conversation there and then. You know, they respected the fact that they thought we were married, even though we aren't. It was just easier to say that. And honestly, I would recommend you do the same. You know, if you're travelling with a ring, just move it over a finger. Just saves
any issues that you might have. And again, you know, we're not talking about all Indian men or whatever.
Oh no.
You know, this is sort of like a very small percentage of people, of course, just like anywhere in the world really, that you may have issues with. And if you do, you know, if you're taking these precautions, then you won't have these issues. But yeah, like we said, 99% of everybody that we met in India was lovely, just like when we go to anywhere else 100%. In the world, really. So don't have any sort of like you know, preconceived misconceptions about, you know, Indian men being like predatory or whatever, because I do sort of see that online, people sort of saying things like that when it's no different to anywhere else in
And
the world.
so many men came up and just said we were a lovely couple and things like that.
Yeah, we had some lovely interactions.
We didn't
with
have
people.
any big issues at all, and it's just something to mention. Now, you might get a lot of stares, we did, but at the end of the day, you know, you're a foreigner, you don't look like everybody else there. They might stare just out of curiosity. Don't take it in the wrong way, you know, you're in their country, you're exploring their home.
Just generally speaking, we did a bit of research before we went, and as a woman it's sort of best to wear like a more conservative outfit, so like wear like a breathable long trouser, cover up your shoulders for example, just so that you're sort of respecting the traditions that the Indians would uphold in their own country. You know, having your shoulders or your knees out is something that in Europe we would do all the time if it's boiling, but it's just how they sort of conduct themselves in their country, and you should do the same. You know, it's not our place to sort of tell you how to dress, but it's just, again, you'll probably feel more comfortable, and also they'll probably feel that you're respecting their tradition. So yeah, it's a bit of a win-win for both sides really.
Another thing that we wanted to touch on was selfies. We got asked for a lot of selfies while we were travelling in India.
Especially Megan.
Yeah, we didn't take any offence to it at all.
Yeah, you don't need to. Just again, like Megan said before, you know, you're exploring their country and all these sorts of things. You know, people would like to just come up and have a selfie with you, and you know, it's nice to just oblige and do so. And sometimes, you know, you have a really nice conversation with like a family.
They led to a lot of wholesome interaction. One last thought that we wanted to end this video on is it's completely okay to do a little bit less than you'd maybe anticipated for your time in India. You know, we arrived to the country with a jam-packed itinerary, wanting to see and do everything, and we actually realised it's okay to take a step back, escape to a rooftop terrace with some tea, some card games. You know, the streets, they're loud, they're busy, and sometimes you do just need to take a step away from that, and that's okay.
It can be quite overwhelming if you're coming straight from the UK, for example, from a city in the UK to New Delhi, like we did. All the sights and the sounds, the smells, like, you know, everything can get a bit much. And sometimes, yeah, you do just need to sort of escape, whether that be back to your room and just take a chill day sometimes. And yeah, that's okay. And you just need to make sure that you do so if you need to, because otherwise, you know, it will probably negatively affect your time in the country. But if you've got any further questions about India or our trip or anything in general really, drop them in the comments and we'll be happy to get back to you and share any advice that we picked up. But we just generally wanted to make this video to sort of, yeah, kill any preconceptions that you might have that may be negative about visiting India, because we definitely think that you should. We wish that we had more time to explore more of the country, but probably in a lifetime, you know, you could spend 5 years travelling around the whole of India and probably not see it all. It's got a bit of absolutely everything, whether that be the mountains in the north or the sort of like the tropical beaches and stuff in the south.
At the end of the day, we see it as an excuse to go back. As Morgan said, if you've got any questions, let us know. We do hope that you found this video useful. If you have, please make sure to like and subscribe to our channel. And that is the end of our India series.